Well, welcome everyone to the public involvement meeting for the East-West Locust Street Recondition project from North 7th Street to North Holton, which is proposed by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation and City of Milwaukee Department of Public Works. Our 4 p.m. session is our first session tonight, where we'll go over the presentation with questions and discussion to follow. We'll have our second session begin at 5 p.m. for those who can join us later, with the same format of presentation with questions to follow. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the project website. We ask that you mute your microphone. At the end of the presentation, we'll open it up for questions or comments. So at that time, you can press the raise your hand button and we will call on you to unmute your microphone, or feel free to submit your questions or comments in the chat box and we will address them. With us tonight is our project team that consists of Wisconsin Department of Transportation Project Manager Greg Haferman, David Tapia, Department of Public Works Major Projects Manager, who is here on behalf of our engineer, Teresa Kubusta, Mike Amston, the City of Milwaukee Multimodal Manager, Lindsay Kaufman and Nolan Wagner with Michael Baker International as our consultant project manager and lead designer, and myself, Megan O'Connor, who will be serving as the project liaison for residents and businesses prior to and leading through construction. Lindsay, you can go ahead.
Okay, great. Thanks, Megan. Hello, everybody. So we've got a presentation for you today that I'll step through, and then as Megan mentioned, we'll open it up to questions afterwards. So first here, our project team, as Megan mentioned, we have Greg Haferman is the WISTOP project manager, and then Teresa Kubusta is the City of Milwaukee project manager. And then we have myself, Lindsay Kaufman. I'm the consultant project manager, and Nolan Wagner is our consultant design engineer. So today, with this presentation, we're going to step through the project location and an overview map. We'll talk about the existing conditions, the scope of work, the existing and proposed typical sections, the need for 4 lanes of traffic. We'll talk about ADA or American Disabilities Act compliance and complete streets. We'll talk about this traffic staging during construction, what other adjacent projects are happening in the area, and then we'll follow up with any questions or comments. So project location, as Megan mentioned, it goes from North 7th Street to North Holton Street on Locust Street within the City of Milwaukee. And project overview. So this section of roadway is approximately 0.74 miles. It was originally constructed in the 1960s. It had a rehabilitation in 1996 and again in 2003. Traffic-wise, from 7th Street to North Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, there's 30,500 vehicles per day. And from North Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive to North Holton Street, there's 22,400 vehicles per day. If you've driven this road recently, you know that the existing infrastructure is in poor condition, and currently the curb ramps are not meeting the American Disabilities Act design compliance or standards. So as I mentioned, you know, we've got the existing conditions on the roadway. We've got the up here in the upper left corner, the existing asphaltic surface has alligator cracking and transverse cracks in it. We've got concrete median noses that need repair. We have on the upper right picture the concrete sidewalk that's not meeting ADA compliance. And then we have some sections of curb and gutter and some driveway approaches that also need repair. And then, as I mentioned, the curb ramps will be reconstructed to meet current ADA standards. So going through our scope of work, which I just covered a little bit. So we will be resurfacing. It's a mill and overlay. So we'll be removing the existing asphalt pavement, keeping the existing base there, and then putting new HMA pavement back down. There'll be curb and gutter, sidewalk, median noses, and driveway approaches that will have spot replacements. It will not be a full replacement. We will be replacing the curb ramps to meet ADA compliance. We will be restriping the pavement markings, And then we're also looking at adding pinned concrete islands at select intersections and providing pedestrian refuge in the medians at crosswalk locations. We'll also be replacing and upgrading the traffic signals and street lighting, and there is some potential for some stormwater work. So our existing typical section, typically it is two 11-foot travel lanes in each direction with an 8-foot parking lane. Then we have the grass area and then sidewalks. Our proposed section is staying pretty much the same, with the exception, as we noted, that there will be the new pavement overlay here. So we're removing the existing asphalt and putting back new. And then at select intersections, we're going to be adding this pinned concrete island in the parking lane. And we'll talk a little bit more about the benefits of that in a few slides. So you may be wondering, why do we really need 4 lanes of traffic out there? And there's a lot of information on this slide, so I'll talk through it for you. As I mentioned, there's more traffic between 7th and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, with the existing at 30,500. And then in the future, we're forecasted to be over 35,000 vehicles per day. And then between Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive and North Holton Street, currently we're at 22,400, but forecasted to be 25,800. And the threshold of vehicles per day on a single lane is 24,500. So in that forecasted condition, we will be over that threshold. If we were to reduce to 2 lanes of traffic, it would result in less capacity and longer delays. This would result in fewer gaps in the traffic, which could potentially result in a higher crash rate, as there's not as much space for people to make their right or their left turns off of the local streets or from Locust onto the local streets. So one thing I mentioned a couple of times is the American Disabilities Act compliance. So we're looking at that in regards to the sidewalks. We went out and performed a site visit with the city to evaluate the existing panels, and we have marked the ones that need to be reconstructed to meet compliance. And then also looking at the curb ramps. So the existing curb ramps are shown in the upper right corner. It's called a type 1 curb ramp, which has 1 ramp. We're looking to replace these with type 2 or type 3, which you can see on the bottom here, which provides and better direction for the pedestrian into the direction they should travel across the road. With the curb ramp reconstruction, no right-of-way acquisition is anticipated. One of the initiatives on the project is looking at complete streets. Some of the concerns that we have out there right now are the higher crash rates, vehicles passing in the parking lane, and the higher speed of travel. So one of the items that we're looking at that I mentioned was some intersection improvements, which include the pinned concrete islands. And we've also been looking at concrete curb extensions. The concrete curb extensions have more significant impacts to the existing utilities and the drainage system out there, which is why we started looking at this pinned concrete island. In addition to that, we are also evaluating crosswalks. So we're evaluating them per the City of Milwaukee crosswalk marking policy, looking at adding more high visibility crosswalks where they're warranted, similar to the crosswalk over here on the right at the library. And then also looking at adding new crosswalks throughout the corridor, in compliance with the City of Milwaukee policy, making sure that where there are trip generators, we do have crosswalks. We have also looked at the potential for bike accommodations. This project is a resurfacing project, not a reconstruction. So that means we're not going to be moving the curb on the outside or in the medians, which ultimately results in the fact that we have insufficient roadway width to accommodate bicycles. We would have to eliminate the parking in order to accommodate it, or reduce a lane of traffic, which, as we've already discussed, is not really feasible with the traffic volumes out there. Onto the traffic staging. So this project is scheduled for construction in 2024. It should last for one construction season, so through in 2024. During construction, traffic will be reduced to one lane in each direction, and it will be a two-stage construction sequence utilizing a crossover. So, all of the traffic will be moved onto the westbound, and eastbound will be constructed, and then we'll flip to construct the other side. No parking will be allowed during construction on East-West Locust Street, but we will maintain access to residents and businesses. And then pedestrian accommodations will also be maintained during construction and will be developed further as we move through the project. Adjacent project by others. Hopefully you guys are aware of the WISTOP project that's happening on I-43. This is between Brown Street and Capitol Drive. We've got the website here noted for you. You could take a look at that project. It does include the Locust Street Bridge, and the construction on that is anticipated on that particular bridge in 2023, with that entire I-43 project being anticipated in 2023 and 2024. In addition, there is the library development project that's happening on the northwest corner of North Martin Luther King Jr. Drive and Locust Street, and that construction is anticipated for 2023. There are a couple of different ways you can stay informed about the project. The City of Milwaukee the City of Milwaukee Department of Public Works specifically has a Facebook page that we've got noted on here, and also a Twitter account, so you could follow them there. Additionally, we do have a project website noted here, and hopefully you got that information in the packet about this public involvement meeting. So this presentation will be posted there, and any updates on the project will be posted there. So with that, I thank you all for coming and listening, and we will open it up to questions.
Great. I see that Karen here with her hand raised. Please go ahead.
Hi, yes. I live off of Locust. I'm actually on Bellar Phillips. And my concern is with the decrease in driving capacity on Locust, the effect on the side streets, particularly my street. Even like when we just had Juneteenth Day, traffic is pretty crazy, and residents on that street have a difficult time parking. Now, usually there's not a lot of cars on Locust parked, but there is a tavern that is on 5th, I believe. And when they have their special nights, it's tons of cars parked along Locust. That's going to create a problem for us residents on our side streets. What does the city plan on doing with that?
So your specific question is during construction, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I also have a lot of problems because I have probably there might be maybe another property off of Bellar Phillips that has a driveway right off of Bellar Phillips. And I have a lot of issues with cars literally blocking my driveway. And I'm not trying to pay a couple $100 for the city to put a sign up there that says no parking, don't block, driveway, whatever. Now you have this project that's going to take a while, and it's not going to be very pleasant for us residents on that street, both for those who can park in their alleys or who park in front of their homes or who have a driveway. So has the city looked into the effect of this project on the side streets for residents?
We haven't looked into it specifically on the effects during construction. We will definitely note that, especially noting the business on 5th Street. With the way, the only way to do the resurfacing on this project is to reduce to 1 lane of traffic and eliminate the parking.
Oh, I'm not complaining about that.
Yeah.
We have too much construction in Milwaukee not to know, lanes are going to be crossed over. My concern is for the residents in this area.
Yep.
With the construction, traffic patterns, having
we are aware.
access to get onto the side streets. Because I'm not sure if you're familiar with Brown Deer Road and all the construction they have there.
I live over there, so yes, I'm aware.
So you're aware that some streets you can't make a left turn.
Yep.
Can't make a right turn. A portion of it has actually a split lane that goes onto the opposite side of the street. And you literally got 2 lanes of traffic going one in each direction.
Yep.
So I'm not concerned about the pattern. My concern is the impact and what the city or the project managers plan to do with the impact for us residents on the side streets. Us being able to get to Locust or come off of Locust.
Yeah, I mean, it will be more difficult during construction. We will talk about that as a project team to see if there's any options. There's always anticipated local street diversion as part of these projects. But looking at alternate routes and things like that are discussions that we will have as we move forward on the project.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Michael. Let's unmute your microphone. I will see if I can do that for you. I'm unable to unmute your microphone, Michael. Can you try near your name on the screen? We can't hear you. Michael, we can't hear you. Yep, there you go.
Okay, now you can hear me. Okay, thank you. All right, here, let me just tell you, first of all, that I've used this section of Locust Street for over 70 years. I grew up on 2nd Street. My family still has a home there, and I have a sister who lives there. I live, of course, over on Pierce Street, which is only about 3/4 of a mile from that location, and I use that street a lot, principally not as a driver, but as a pedestrian. Okay, and I guess I'm very much concerned with the issues of safety on that street for pedestrians and for individuals who are walking in the neighborhood. All of the area from the street from Holton Street all the way up is, to Martin Luther King and to the freeway is very difficult for individuals to cross, especially elderly people and individuals who don't have the normal physical ability. And I'm kind of hoping that there's a good consideration given in your planning work for dealing with the safety problems. We know we have very high speed traffic on that street. And I think if it gets improved, I'm afraid we're going to have a raceway along Locust Street. And not only on, from all the way from the freeway to Holton Street. At times we can watch motorists drive by at 50 and even 60 miles an hour on Locust. And sometimes they race to the top of the hill at 1st Street and continue accelerating down the hill toward MLK. And, you sometimes look at this and say, well, maybe these people shouldn't be driving, but the fact is they do have vehicles, they are driving. And so what we need to do is make certain that we use whatever abilities we have to somehow curtail that poor driving. Now, one of the aspects, that I wanted to mention specifically, at the top of the hill at First and Locust, we oftentimes have individuals who decide to U-turn around the island. There is a safety island there, and individuals who are walking are always in danger of being picked off by being hit by vehicles that suddenly decide they want to U-turn, perhaps going east and then go west, right at the top of the hill. And I think there should be some stipulation or some traffic rule that prohibits that type of thing. There's also the issue at 2nd Street, for example, where years ago there was a special barrier put in the middle of the street so people wouldn't go directly through on 2nd Street from north to south or from south to north, because cars were coming down the hill very fast, and it was related to a fair number of collisions and safety problems on that corner. All right. And I think, those what we see now is, and we've seen for many years, is individuals driving around that, through, incorrectly through that intersection and not dealing with that particular problem. So I think it would be nice if the entire safety issue that we're seeing along that section of Locust Street be taken care of. I don't know if one can reduce the amount of traffic on Locust Street, and I don't know if that would be wise, because Locust Street became the main artery all the way over to the east side, where we have large populations who are commuting, like at UWM and so forth. And during certain times of the day, you're seeing an enormous number of UWM traffic, people traveling along that street. And every few years, one of them gets killed. Oftentimes it would be at MLK and Locust, with some kind of a collision because of the traffic pattern. So I guess what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to introduce this thing, the importance of safety for people on that section of roadway. I'm very happy that there's attention being given to it, and that it'll be rebuilt into a road. But I hope along with that we can have a nicer arrangement there without all of the high-speed traffic and the dangers to pedestrians. Okay, that should be enough of my hogging time from you. Okay.
Thanks, Michael. We appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Jocelyn, I see that your hand is raised.
Hi, I'm Officer Kalmanson with District 5. How is everyone today?
Good.
So I guess my questions are, how are we going to access the police station while Locust is closed?
Yeah, we will have it. We haven't worked out all the details yet, but we will have it in the specifications that we will maintain access to the police station. Yeah, you guys will have access through the project.
And then will this be going at the same time as the North Avenue bridge is being taken care of as well? Because that's kind of our main ways to get to Columbia St. Mary's.
David.
North Avenue Bridge
The bridge is open.
Is
North
open.
Avenue
Oh,
is
it's open now. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And what date is the projected start date again?
It's construction will be in 2024. We don't have an exact start date yet.
Okay.
Typically spring of 2024.
All right, I guess that's all my questions for now.
Great, thank you.
Karen, you can go ahead with your question.
Okay. Earlier in your presentation, it was mentioned that there were a couple of other projects that will be underway during the same time period, including King Library.
The library will actually be done the year before. That'll be done in 2023.
Well, assuming everything goes according to plan and there's no delays.
Correct.
Which I'm sure there will be, given weather and other circumstances. There seems to be a lot of construction going on, and I consider it a small area from Holton to 7th Street, it's a lot of construction going on during that time. That means there's going to be a lot of issues going on. Buses being rerouted. I don't see how they're going to get down some of these side streets. If the traffic has to get rerouted off of King Drive. I don't know how long. Well, like you said, the other project for King is going to be completed year before.
Yeah, and that project is just on the library. It's not a roadway project.
So is it just the building itself? I mean, streets are going to be affected by whatever happens over in that area.
Yeah, I don't know the full details, but my understanding is that it is on the library footprint that project will be. Will there be, construction vehicles for them? Yes, but there's no work happening on the actual roadway.
Okay.
And that one is scheduled for summer of 2023.
Okay. And then there's a grocery store on that corner, Fast and Friendly, with their parking lot. What arrangements are being made for their customers? I'm not concerned about the customers or the store, but it's going to impact, again, the residents. My house is literally on the other side of the alley from that store. And quite often, if their parking lot is full, their customers will park in the alley. And they will literally block my gate. So then if you're talking about doing one lane of traffic in each direction, and a lot of their people will try to get back onto Locust to travel or on King Drive, I'm afraid that let's just say tempers are going to flare. I can see more accidents happen. So what arrangements have been made or discussed with the owners of that store to accommodate their customers so that it does not affect the residents in that immediate area, as well as the workers too, not the fast and friendly workers, but the people who are working on the street. What arrangements are being made or discussions held with the owners of that store?
Hi, Karen. This is Megan O'Connor, and I'm the support for business liaison. And I have spoken to the owner of Fast and Fresh Grocery and shared with him our guidebook of how to manage a business during construction. And as we get more details of the construction staging laid out, we will follow up with him to discuss access points into his parking lot and how customers will be getting in and out. And I'll create signage to put up during construction to let people know, like, this is the way in, this is the way out. So we'll be working closely with him to get those staging details more confirmed and detailed once we're further along in this design phase.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it's a great question.
Lindsay, do you mind if I just jump in real quick?
No, go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is David Tapia. I'm the major projects manager. I'm filling in for Teresa, who's on vacation right now. And I just want to because there's been some comments and concerns raised about the construction activities, and just kind of want to just sort of, hopefully this will put people's mind at ease. This isn't a full reconstruct where we have to rip up all the pavement down to the gravel underneath it, and we're in there digging up storm sewer and trenching in new material. Basically, the operations that'll be out there is there will be an asphalt milling machine that will come down the road, and it'll mill off the asphalt down to the pavement. And we know there will be some areas where we might have to go in there and replace what they call base patches, and it's usually a 6 foot wide by the width of the lane concrete. We're hoping there's not a lot of it. So these machines will go past driveways and side streets and alleys relatively quickly, milling off the material, and then it'll be accessible for cross traffic vehicles to work. Crossing the streets, yeah, there'll be little bumps. Lindsay, I don't know, what do we is it 2.5-inch mill on this project?
2.75 inches.
2 3/4 inches. So where we tying in, there'll be that, and we have the contractors. They will taper those down so the transition is a little easier. And then once the other work is done and they come out and pave the asphalt again, that's a relatively quick operation where they put down the new hot asphalt, they roll it until it's cool and can be driven on. So the impacts are far less in terms of duration to anybody out there. So hopefully the officer, the access, they will definitely make sure that, as they're coming through your driveway, that you guys are aware when that's going to happen, when they're pulling through the businesses and things like that. It happens relatively quickly. They will have flagging operations out there to assist vehicles and stuff like that. So I just wanted to put that out there. So hopefully that helps.
Thanks, David. Those are excellent points.
Michael, you can go ahead and yes.
I have just a brief question for you. Some time ago, Humboldt Avenue was resurfaced, and that was in preparation for rebuilding Humboldt Avenue a few years later. Is there some plan to resurface this, and how long will this resurfaced road last before it's time to rebuild Locust Street?
I'll take this one, Lindsay. So you're right. Typically, what we try to do is we try to extend the life of these roadways, the pavement, before it's absolutely necessary to reconstruct it. And that's the case here with Locust, where it's not in great condition, but it's not in terrible condition, where we feel that everything underneath the asphalt out there, the concrete and the base material, is basically past its life. Useful life. So we're going to do this. We would love to see and hope that, we would get a good 10 to 15 year life out of this before we have to come back in there and do a full blown reconstruction. Again, it'll depend on, how good the concrete base under there is and the materials underneath that as well. So, but yeah, it's kind of our the typical process is, you get a concrete road, maybe you do some minor stuff. Years down the line, you put that asphalt, and then you mill and you remove the asphalt and put back new asphalt a couple times until you've just realized that the concrete underneath there can no longer handle the traffic out there.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Feel free to raise your hand or submit any questions or comments in our chat box. I do want to acknowledge that we have Alderwoman Coggs with us tonight. Thank you for attending this meeting, Alderwoman. I do see that Karen has her hand raised. If we can go to Karen's question, and then if the Alderwoman would like to say a few words, we would open that up to her. Karen?
Just a quick question. How often will there be meetings to keep us updated as to the status of this project? I did sign up online for updates, but will there be regular virtual meetings?
Yeah, so
newsletters?
Great question, Karen. And thank you for signing up for updates. So prior to construction, we will hold a pre-construction meeting with the public. That's when we'll have our contractor on board and we'll lay out staging details so everyone is aware of the impacts before construction begins. And then I will send out construction updates. We aim to send them out about every other week. So twice a month, you'll be receiving construction updates so you are informed of the progress happening on Locust Street. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Alderwoman, if you would like to say a few words.
I just want to thank the residents that came out to hear about the project and who have expressed their concerns. And I would hope that the staff and all the engineers working on this take to heart the issues that have been raised by residents, and that we plan with them in mind as we approach 2024. And again, thank you all.
Thank you. We will begin our second session at 5 p.m. So we're going to go over the same presentation and take any questions or comments for those who are joining us at 5 p.m. If you do not have any other questions, you can feel free to log off. We will be posting this recording on our website, and I'll send an email to all those who've been able to provide an email address in our sign-up sheet as well, so everyone can watch the meeting recording.